The highly anticipated motorsports games Le Mans Ultimate is finally out, but it is early access. So, should you buy it? Well, this won't be a title for everyone, and just like I said, this is early access. That means it will have more bugs than a mission in Helldivers 2. Remember, if you're going to buy early access, that means you're going to be a guinea pig and you'll have to find all of the bugs and you have to go through all of the process of being frustrated with every single part of the title. So what the hell is Le Mans Ultimate? Well, the best way to explain it is this is Motorsports Games' version of Assetto Corsa Competizione. I think it's a good analogy. And I say this not because it has GT3 cars, because it doesn't at the moment, but because it is the FIA World Endurance Championship licensed video game. Just like Assetto Corsa Competizione is for the SRO Championships, it has the content for those championships alone. Even though this is an early access title, it is actually content complete. It does have all the cars and all the tracks for the 2023 season of the World Endurance Championship. It has Sebring, Autódromo Internacional do Algarve, dubbed Portimão, Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. It has the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Monza, Fuji Speedway, and also Bahrain. And for the car classes, it will have the hypercars with all the 7 hypercars that you can choose. You have the Cadillac, the Ferrari, the Glickenhaus, you have Peugeot, you have Van der Waal, Toyota, and Porsche. Then you also have the LMP2s with a bunch of teams on the inside. And then you also have the GTE class, or the Le Mans GTE class, with all the cars as well. So Aston Martin, Cadillac, Ferrari, and Porsche. Even though this is content complete, it is not feature complete. It doesn't have the possibility on multiplayer to do swaps, driver swaps. And also it doesn't have VR, and I'm not too sure if it will have it. And of course, because it's an early access, you're going to be a guinea pig. It has bugs everywhere. At the moment, there's only really a couple of things you can do. You have your race weekend, you can race against the EI, and you also have online. Online is working at the moment, but once again, it's severely bugged. We're not going to have a look on online today, maybe later, but you do have fixed GT LMP2s. The schedule will circle around for beginner, intermediate, and advanced. You can change or increase your driver rating, your safety rating. You have to do a bunch of races. The races are actually okay, but the start procedure is bugged. And then you'll have multi-class and advanced, and you have to unlock all of these. And to unlock it, just like, iRacing and low fuel motorsports, you do a bunch of races, you get better driver rating, and that's basically it. So what we're going to do today is essentially go around on each class, one car of each class, and check out a few of the tracks. We're not going to check out everything. I think generally the content, it is okay. But once again, it is very limited because it's just for the 2023 season. And I say this is Assetto Corsa Competizione because there's a potential here to expand for the 2024 season as well. So it will be just like Assetto Corsa Competizione. You move to each season with new cars. But also, potentially, don't quote me on this, you could also have the potential for historical seasons. That means if you want to have, the mid-2000s, or you want to have the mid-90s with all of those cars, if you want to have the GT1s, if you want to have, the old 787 over here, that would be, potentially you could have it. So let's create a race weekend. Let's go to Circuit de la Sarthe, driving an hypercar. And we're going to choose maybe the Ferrari. The setups for all of these cars aren't really that good. The Ferrari is the easiest one to use. All of the other setups, I found that they were kind of iffy. Just like R Factor 2, you can choose your sessions. And if you want to activate the sessions, you just press the cross or the plus. In this case, we're just going to do a practice. We're going to have everything 1 hour length. You can also change the settings, the weather. You can change basically everything that you need. This is what you see when you start the session. This is your R Factor 2 screen. You have your live timing over here. You can check what is going on a live timing, the last lap, best lap in sectors. You can watch, you can start driving, you can go to your setup, change the fuel in some cases, change your tires, change your car setup. Let's go directly to soft, for example. This part is heavily bugged. As you can see, the performance isn't really the best when I'm doing this. It is definitely heavily bugged. I can't change anything now. If we start driving, we have more bugs over here that may or may not disappear. But if you can see over there through the fusion of the light, here we have the R Factor 2 guy, same animations. And we're going to talk a little bit about everything. So we're going to talk about graphics, some bugs that we have. some. We're going to talk about performance and, of course, driving. The first thing that you need to think about is that these tires don't have tire blankets. The tire blankets means that you won't have a lot of grip out of these cars from the get-go. Needs to, you need to get your stuff sorted first. Get a little bit of heat going on in them. Rub them a little so they heat up. That means if you're getting like slippery action, that means you have no grip because your tires aren't up to pressure. I like the HUD. The HUD is nice, though. There is kind of a bug for ultra-wide screen users that sometimes the bottom right HUD becomes compressed. You need to change. You need to restart the game for that to be fixed. If you want to race against AI at the moment in early access, because you're a guinea pig, just like myself, and I bought this at full price, it means that you're gonna have a bad time with AI. Generally, they're tremendously stupid, and I do mean tremendously stupid. They are completely oblivious to you, so if you're doing multi-class, good luck. We also have to talk about the graphics and the performance. When you start, the performance might not be as good, or it might not be good at all, like you've seen when we started back then. You started like at 30 FPS. If you restart the session or go back to the pits, your FPS might even go lower than that, and it becomes quite a chore. But after that, it will raise to 100. At the moment, it has 73 because, once again, this is early access, and we do need to, go through this. You're a guinea pig after all, just like myself. Also, the anti-aliasing is not working correctly for some reason. That means you're going to have a lot of aliasing. I have the anti-aliasing at max, and the game still looks completely bananas aliased. I'm not sure if it's looking right now in the recording, but it sure as hell is looking on my end, so at business end, my monitor. In terms of the driving, also very important. If you like R Factor 2, you're going to like this. That's basically it. And I could stop basically the video here, and that would be essentially it. If you like R Factor 2, this drives like R Factor 2. So that's basically it. They put a lot of lipstick on a very old pig. And yeah, you got Le Mans Ultimate. That's not necessarily bad. I think this has a lot of potential. The cars are kind of enjoyable to drive. You do need to learn about the setups, and I think that motorsports games should get better setups out of the box, maybe just like Assetto Corsa Competizione does. A selection of fast, slow, and safe setups, and one more, a little more aggressive that we could probably use as a preset. Maybe it will be there. That's my objective as a YouTuber. Say little stuff out loud, and then maybe sometimes they'll pick it up, and that'll be it. As for the Ferrari, this is definitely my favorite LMPH car, or hypercar. It's my favorite one. It's the one that feels more balanced in terms of handling. I wanted to drive the Corolla, the Toyota, but it was a bit too wild for me. As for this track, I think they've done a really good job. I think all the tracks are very well represented. They have all the correct assets. The assets seem to be on the correct place. The layouts are really good. The tracks, I think all of them are laser scanned. If they're not laser scanned, they're really, really good. They have the right choice of assets. Trees, for example. I know, Forza guys, I'm really sorry, but trees are really important on a track that you're trying to replicate, and making sure that it looks natural to look at and not the jungle where you hope the Viet Cong are not coming out of the trees. This looks pretty much spot on. The trees are correct for the area. Everything is correct for the area, the curbing, and naturally, therefore, the drive will be very much enjoyable. And I think the drive in this game is very, very enjoyable. Another track. We have Portimão here driving with the Dentist Special LMP2. Excellent track, very underrated. Drives really nicely. The layout, the track model is basically top-notch. Everything is as it should be, or most close to that. And the LMP2 is actually an unexpected surprise for me. This car probably saying that I lost a good opportunity to become a dentist, and I should move up to dentistry when I was like 18, go to that school, because it's one of the cars that I'm liking more. The LMP2 is, for me, is a fantastic car. It is basically a little more aero than the GTE car. Drives a little bit like a prototype and still has, not being as bonkers as the LMP or the hypercars. And it still has, it's simple enough to drive. You don't have to mess around with regeneration, all of that. It's just like a more of a pure driving experience than the hypercar is. We need to talk about force feedback. I am using a Club Sport DD Plus, and it drives quite nicely out of the box. I did need to change a few things, namely the amount of force that is producing or the amount of gain. Otherwise, it would be too much with the setup that I'm using. You feel everything with this. I don't think that all of the major brands are still prepared. I think Mazda might be a little bit more muted at the moment. But once again, that's not Mazda's problem, because Mazda generally does, okay force feedback. It will be early access, so it's likely that a few things that need to be changed on their end. It's likely that it also works correctly on other bases like Asetek, SemiCube, and Logitech, and whatever else that is out there. So I'm really happy with the force feedback of it. R-Factor 2 generally is praised for having really decent force feedback. I just don't know how to do this corner. And for me, this is really the LMU. It's very much in the vein of that. Excellent force feedback and very simple to understand what is going on. You know what the car is doing, the rear, the fronts, it's the understeer, oversteer, everything is there. You understand if you're locking the tires even. More than understeer, you do have those little things that are important, going over the correctors. The force feedback is fun. You can make it as over the top as you want, or as natural, or as sensitive. So that is a pretty good job, in my opinion. And driving this car, the LMP2, like I said, it's likely pointing that I should have gone to become a dentist, or a dentist, dental hygienist or something, because I do like to drive this car a lot, more than the hypercars, funnily enough, as the car is super balanced and super fun to drive. So last car, GTEs. This is my favorite car at the moment, the 488 GTE. It's a car that you have also in iRacing, and I think it also had in Project Cars too, but I think it's really fun, a really fun car to drive. And also it shows a bit of the R-Factor 2 physics. For example, if you do the Parabolica here, the way you can drive this is... there's really more that you can exploit of the tires, in a slip angle of the rear of the car and all of that of the rear tires. You can drift a little more. There's always been a conversation in the R-Factor 2 community about how cars drive in R-Factor 2, and you can exploit the slip angle of it, or of them, quite a bit. And on this sim, that is actually noticeable as well. Of course, if you drive it in a certain way, it will have better results, but that doesn't mean you can exploit it all the time like that, because you're going to have, issues with the tires. They'll heat up a lot. It's just the nature of the Gs. Let's go on the inside, trying to overtake that guy. Also very interesting is the way the brakes work in this. No cars in this list will have ABS. This one doesn't have ABS as well. But there seems to be quite a big area of operation of the brakes. You can actually stomp on them and the car will stop, not lock. Of course, you do need to trail from it, so I'm basically going almost 100%, and then I have to release it for the trail brake. The car brakes well. For example, in iRacing, you need to be a little more sensitive about the tires. Hey, you need to say, hey, may I brake now? Can I, please? Will you let me? Sometimes iRacing says yes, sometimes it says no, but here it tends to be a little more consistent, I find. And even in situations where you're not totally on the wheel with, with it very straight line, there's more of a window to play with the brakes. Not sure if it's right or wrong, because I've never driven this car, but it's something to notice. Also, something to notice is that Mount Fuji, it's horrible. It's disgusting. Please bring me a decent version of Mount Fuji there. Make sure that you change the textures. You know, get a little more of high textures there, but then again, early access, you're a guinea pig. That's why you pay the 24 pounds, $32 or 29 euro for it. You're a guinea pig. You're paying for the privilege of being a guinea pig. So essentially, with all of the three classes, I'm not a big fan of hypercars. Once again, I will need to check out setups for it to make the cars a little more palatable to me. Generally, this game drives fine. It does have issues on performance, but I don't think you can really expect much more of this title in early access. And for the price you pay for it, you do have a set of content. The content is complete, even though the features aren't. So, is it worth it? Yeah, that's the question. Is it worth it? Well, it is kind of complicated. If you don't like WEC titles, or you don't like a title like this, which is very centered into a specific series, of course, this won't be worth it for you. Or, of course, if you don't really want to be part of this, if you're not sure if this game has a future or not, you know, it might not be worth it for you. For the price, I think it is interesting. It's an interesting proposal. But let's say that actually they removed the bugs a la Helldivers missions, and they actually improve the performance, improve the load times, remove most of the bugs, because all of these won't be ever bug free. Should this have a future? In my opinion, it should have a future. And for the content it has, and hopefully with the online it's going to have, early access might be a good proposition. What I would say is that if you're still not too sure of this, and you really shouldn't be too sure of it, I bought it and I'm not really too sure of it, is that wait a bit. Wait a couple of months. See what happens. If the game actually improves on the early access, it is really not that expensive at 24 pounds or $32 or 29 euros for the content it has. It has basically your full season. They still need to do a career mode or something like that. They don't have that, sadly. I've spent money in much worse games than this and much more expensive games than this. I was cautiously optimistic about this game because I really wanted a WEC title. I wanted that. I wasn't hyped or very negative about it. If it failed, it failed. If it was good, it was good. If it wasn't, it wasn't. I was kind of neutral. But, you know, with that little thing, I wanted Le Mans Ultimate to actually have a decent FIA WEC experience, probably with multiplayer. And at this price, I think it got me that, but it might not be the same to you. If you are not too sure about early access, wait a little bit to make your own decision. But let me know in the comments what you think of this.